when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Hello, wonderful book club readers. Welcome to your weekly dance break. It's time to dance. I hope you're dancing at home and also reading along with us. It's been so much fun. We're talking about Deadhouse Gates, the second novel in the Malazan Books of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bashinsky. Hi, Lana.
Hello, good morning. I love the weekly dance break because, I am a video game developer. My day usually starts a little later and I need the energy to get me ready for this conversation.
I agree. Starting my morning with a little groove, didn't hurt nobody. Never hurt nobody. I hope we're inspiring folks to get up out of your chairs at home. I am so excited to talk about the two chapters that we're talking about today, chapters 13 and 14, the last two chapters of book 3, Chain of Dogs, in the second novel. But we always start the show with a little non-spoiler talk so that if you're not caught up with us, you can still enjoy some of our revelry around books. And Lana, I know you have a topic this week that you wanted to bring up.
Yes. I saw there's somebody in the DLC Discord. It's either EW Guy or EW Guy username.
I like that latter one.
Was talking about writing books. And you, Jeff, you are a storyteller. I'm sure that people who are here on your YouTube channel are very familiar with your other sort of storytelling works. But I was wondering if you have ever actually sat down and considered writing a full-on, like novel or like a short story or any kind of published work of your ideas.
Published is the interesting descriptor
it
there.
It can be self-published. Self-published is still published.
How about kept in a drawer and hidden away from all eyes forevermore?
Oh, good.
I have written a number of short stories over the years. I've been an actor. I went to school for acting and theater, and I've done a lot of stuff in Los Angeles before I moved here to Denver. I did a lot of stuff creating shows and things like that. So I did a lot of screenwriting. I did a lot of web series and stuff like that I created. But there was that old. You remember that old James Lipton show, Inside the Actor Studio?
Yes.
You remember how he always had his questions from Bernard Pivot from Bouillon de Couture at the end?
Yes.
There was one of the questions, as an aspiring actor for many years, I would watch that show in college and after college. And, you always imagine yourself being interviewed. And I always thought about what my answers to those standard questions he would ask at the end. And one of those questions was, what is a job you would never want? And what is a job, other than yours that you would want? Mm-hmm. And my never want, by the way, is being a farmer. I think that sounds like a horrible thing. Mm-hmm. But my little pet answer to that question was, what is a job you would aspire to, what it would want? And it was always writer. That was what I fantasized about being. And I just, So yes, I've written a number of short stories over the years. I would always be inspired by it. Like I have a couple of short stories that I wrote that are like aping David Foster Wallace's, overly verbose style. And there's all these, things where I've been inspired to do something and I'll do it. But to more firmly answer your question, recently, because I did this long Dungeons and Dragons campaign, for a show called The Dungeon Run, and it was very, very well received. And the story I was really proud of. I really put a lot of effort into it, and people really responded to it. I have been working on a novelization of that. But I got to tell you, and it's kind of embarrassing to say it here because Mr. Erikson tends to watch these. I am reading these novels. I am like, it makes me less inclined to work on my book because it's like it's standing at the feet of giants. It's like how I can't I aspire to that level of artistry, and it's you just go, well, if I can't do that, then what's the point? I don't know. Have you ever written anything or thought about writing anything?
Yeah, I used to write all the time. I mean, never even so much as like, not even to, you're like looking at Steven and other wonderful authors being inspired by that. I'm like, oh, wow, you've done so much like D&D work. Like that's like my aspiration level is like you.
Oh, that's sweet.
I used to write lots of short stories. And actually, when I first moved to Irvine, which if folks listening to this don't know California or Southern California very well, it is just the worst. It is.
Imagine an armpit.
I describe it in a much less pleasant way, but I don't know our
less
intended audience. Yes, I don't know our intended audience level. I don't know, like if children.
Yeah, we should probably keep it PG-13.
Anyway,
I don't know.
I describe it much more poorly. A bleached body part.
Oh,
that usually doesn't see the sun would be what I call it. It's
okay.
so beige and so
beige.
The same, like literally like cookie cutter everything. And when I first got to Irvine after moving there from San Francisco, where I went to school, which is like, has its own problems, absolutely, but is like my experiences, they were crazy because I was so broke. And so I was like, I felt like I explored that city because like that's what I could afford is walking around and like loving the city I lived in. And moving to Irvine, I felt like completely drained of creative energy, which is weird because this is where I like moved to like start my creative career. But I used to write actually a lot in the time because it was like my way to sort of like escape the fact that I lived in the blandest city on earth, but statistically safest. And I would write short stories, but I also wrote like small, I don't even know what you call them, little papers just on like very Irvinian, like surreal Irvinian experiences that people hear like this is a normal thing. And I was like, this is so weird. And I would write about just my experiences with like the strangeness of Irvine, which is like, wow, what it must have been riveting. But I really enjoyed sort of that as like an outlet for like trying to keep myself sane and living in this place that I just despised.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think, people that love words, that love reading, I think are, it's the same thing. If you really love music, you tend to be like, well, maybe I'll learn the guitar or something. I think you feel like, oh, I want to try it too. I love it so much that I want to be more inside the experience.
Yes.
And I think that for me, I mean, I absolutely adore the process of writing. What's that famous quote? I hate writing, but I love having written. I actually love the process of like wrestling with a sentence, or wrestling with a paragraph and trying to get it to where you feel the thought is perfectly conveyed.
Wordsmithing. I love wordsmithing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I bring that up just to say that I think there's something that sort of hones the mind about that. There's a clarity of thought that is required to express it to someone else. And I find that I think that is a very healthy and very useful thing to work on, even if you are never going to want to publish anything or show it to anybody. I think writing or journaling, I used to journal a lot too.
Yeah.
And I always approached journaling not as a spewing of thoughts, but as like a formulation of thoughts,
Yeah.
and trying to construct it in a way that would feel a little more, I don't know, a little more crafted, I guess, than just a like Dear Diary, I think that's healthy. I think that's useful, and I think it's cool that you do it or have done it.
Yeah, I haven't done it in a long time. I feel like I really fell off when I kept a journal, like an online journal on this website that no longer exists anymore, from when I was 11 to when I was 22.
Is it gone? Is it lost because the website doesn't exist?
The website went down and all of it is gone. And it was like every day.
That's brutal.
I mourned it. I mourn the last one because like you
Oh,
have a bad day and you go look at your like diary entries from when you're 12 and like the things you thought were dramatic or the things that you thought were important, and they were, but
oh,
like it just pushed such things in like such relief compared to where you are now. It just,
that hurts my
yeah,
heart to hear that.
yeah, it was
I
really
guess you shouldn't have put
devastating.
your trust in keepsakeforever.com.
Yo, I don't even want to talk about it. It was called melodramatic.com.
No way, really?
Yeah. Oh, nothing made you feel the teen angst, like going to melodramatic.com and being
Melodramatic.
like,
You literally
talk
like,
to
yeah,
me,
that's the
mom.
site for me.
Yeah.
This is the site for me.
Oh, yeah,
That's
it was great.
amazing.
What a
I
time.
did all mine by hand on I'm left-handed.
Mhm.
So physically writing has been torturous for me my entire life, right?
Do you
In
get the
school,
smear?
yes, I had the black smudge from writing on with pencil, at school. I hated it. Anyway, my dad made me a bunch of left-handed notebooks. Like he just made them.
Oh.
He took, you know, reams of paper, and there's not. It's kind of even a silly thing to say because you could just literally turn any notebook the other direction. But he like did spiral binding on the other side, so you don't your hand doesn't
So it
hit
looks like the front. It's
yes.
nice.
Anyway, so I used those for years as my my journals, and I've often said when people are like, "Well, what would you take out of a burning building?" Like that's I think the only thing that is irreplaceable in
Mhm.
my world, other than my children and but like as a physical object.
Yeah.
I think that's what those. So it kills me to hear that all of that effort is just gone in the digital black hole. That's
Yeah. I've tried everything too, like Wayback Machines, like internet things. No, it's gone, vaporized.
well. Don't put your creative work on someone else's platform, said the guy recording on YouTube.
No, I'm taking this. I'm taking our YouTube channel out of a burning building. How do I do that? Can I export it to my notebook?
That is fascinating, and I love, I love the process, and it's a great question. Thank you for bringing it up. We got to get to these two chapters though, because there's a lot to dig into. So, ladies and gentlemen, spoilers starting now for chapters 13 and 14 of Deadhouse Gates. These are the final two chapters in book 3, Chain of Dogs. We finally find out why it's
What that
called Chain of
means.
Dogs. Pretty interesting.
Mhm.
And chapter 13 starts with some scenes with our boy Duker, our historian friend, walking around the Coltane's camps, getting ready for this grand battle that we're going to see in these chapters as well. And there's lots of sort of preparations. So the first thing in the scene is the dog running with the smaller dog in its mouth, and all the nobles like, give me back my lap dog.
Yeah.
Which is very funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I love I love what Erikson does here and throughout these sections with Duker specifically, where he's juxtaposing the sort of brutal reality, the soldier's life, the duty of these people just scraping by, the peasants, the refugees who are can barely eat, with these nobles that think even in the situation that they're in, even in these these crazy topsy-turvy just trying to survive moments, they deserve to be treated better. They deserve, they're noting down all the grievances so that when they get back to their world they can file claims and stuff. I love how he's juxtaposing those, really highlighting the class structure,
yeah.
and the haves and the have-nots, and the way these people approach their lives. I think it's powerful, and it brings into stark contrast the two different opinions. And Duker literally grabs that guy and just shakes him. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I also think that that's interesting. I can almost picture it. Maybe it's because I spent like a lot of time in the theater growing up with my mom, but I could almost picture them as like the comic relief that comes in like from one of the alcoves. Like I could picture this as like the stage play, and like they're comic relief, they're comic relief, they're comic relief, and until you really see them doing something horrific, and then suddenly the reality of, oh, it's not just funny that they are so entitled, they're actually terrible.
yeah,
And they're
right.
bad for society. And the fact that Coltane and Army are still like like have a sense of right and wrong enough that they're like, we're not just going to let you die. We're still dragging you with us despite the fact that this is who you are. And
Right.
this is what our society is. And the
Right.
rage of the whirlwind that is spinning against us is likely earned in many ways, but we still have to rise above. Is like, yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And we have, I think, Lull there, or List, excuse me, List. I get List and Lull confused sometimes.
Yeah.
2 4-letter L words. But we have List there being like, hey, Noble, you're lucky this dude, this old historian guy didn't pull his sword on you because he's actually awesome soldier. So step off. Very cool. And then we have, more stuff with Coltane. Coltane literally visits Duker and is like squatting next to him. He's like, hey man, so how you think we're gonna do? And he's like, not good, Coltane. And he's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. It was very interesting reading through like this buzz before the battle began, because it did feel like immersive in the sense that it's like almost insignificant, like small moments that are happening. And part of it is from the way that Duker's describing it, obviously, like, some soldiers go and they'll like check their gear and they'll check their gear and they'll check their gear because that's all that they can do to not think about their impending sort of doom. But going through the camp and having Coltane be like, well, you think this is going to go well? And Duker like, no. And he's like, right. And just like meanders off. And you're like, okay, that's not like a vote of confidence, but he's done so well so far. You have like faith in him, but it just, even reading leading up to this battle that happens in this chapter is like, I can feel that pre-battle buzz, even though I'm not going to go fight anybody myself.
It really reminded me of that scene in Henry V, before into the, once more into the breach. He has that scene at night before where he's walking around the camp and he's sort of not acting like a king, so they're kind of treating him like a soldier. And it reminded me of that, where he's talking to the guy and seeing this tension rise, this feeling of anticipation that we're marching into our death for most of us. It's very powerful stuff. And we get more of this fun flirtation with that female Marine with Duker, which I love that little thread that's being woven through of how, and later on what she says to him is amazing, just amazing.
I also like that she is, female Marine. He's like, I don't know her name. I'm not gonna ask. Oh God.
Yeah. I don't even want to know. It's bad news. It's bad. Don't get tempted. And then you'd think they'd learn their lesson, being like, those sappers, they're deserting us again. It's like, hey man, maybe learn your lesson about the sappers. But I love how even when Duker goes to the sappers, I love the sappers just as there's like a character general to their description of how they're just all nuts. They're just all like, we're gonna do it, and they're just, and then we see what they do later. I love how they're just the crazy MFers in this war,
They remind me of what is it? The movie Brad Pitt, I want to say the Pikeys there's like the movie where they like go fight and they're like, oh, you can't trust them. Jason Statham's in it. It's like called Snooker or something.
Yes.
That's them to me.
Yes.
Come on. What is that movie?
It's the guy who did Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I already put it up on the screen. People saw it.
Okay, great. We all know.
I put it up.
But that is my impression of them. That they're kind of there, but they're like always have like this energy that's like, yeah, you think we won't? I'm not scared. I'm not a coward. I'm already doing it. Goodbye.
Yeah. And what else? Any other stuff in the pre-fight stuff? Because there is a bunch of, I think, little things that might come back that are there that are very subtly, it's just him kind of getting a feel for all these different factions within this moving caravan. Sormo talks about how hey, a demon killed that Semp god, which we know is, our girl, um, um, Apt, and the boy, and they saw the boy on the back of Apt, and they're trying to figure out what that's all about. So there's like little stuff in there that I feel is percolating, as well as what people know and what they're finding out, and all these different sort of parts of that army,
Yeah, and there's also like the sense of time, I feel like, is so difficult to really get a grip on. When Coltane comes and talks to Duker, or I forget exactly if it's Coltane talking to him, but they're talking about how, like, okay, so what's really the plan? He's like, oh, we're going to get to that river. We're going to get there 2 days before at Camus Relo's army. And he's like, okay, but that's 6 months away.
Right.
Like, you're planning for this 2-day margin. How far in advance? What's happening tomorrow? And he's like, I mean, you have to think that far ahead if you're going to win.
Yeah.
And that, like, yeah, there are all these small moments, but the best way I can describe it for me is that it all did feel like this buzz. And I feel like all my energy was focused on, like, oh, Duker is very sweet, because I almost feel like, because he's the historian, he's there to kind of be like the like oblivious, like, these horses are definitely going to be too heavy, so that we as the reader can be like, we got to keep an eye on those horses. Duker's probably wrong in some way.
Right.
Like the last battle, when Duker's like, they all drowned in the river, and then he's like running around, and they're like, what are you doing? Get across the bridge, old man. And in this one, he's like, those horses, we're dead. What about this? Oh, that's never going to work. Like, he always is sort of like keeping his doubts, but like preparing himself for his own death as well.
Yeah.
But he's pointing at things that are kind of like, check that out. When the battle happens, it's probably going to be fine.
But the other thing that's interesting too is that he has all these doubts. He's like, we're definitely going to die. And then he talks to the soldiers, these like just regular foot soldiers that are outfitting the horses and stuff. And they're like, hey, no, it's all going to be cool. They have complete confidence in Coltane, right? So that, I think it's really interesting how that is illustrated, that, the army itself is in 100% on these plans, and they get what's going on. And Duker's just like, how's he going to get out of this one? And, Coltane keeps coming up with these incredible plans.
I'm like, Duker, do you think you should be at a planning meeting?
I
feel like you could get that confidence if you participated in group exercises.
I love how Coltane not only is a military genius, but has a flair for the dramatic. Like he loves surprising people too. It's like even his own friends, he's like, you're gonna love this one. I'm not telling you. Ooh, it's a secret. Okay, so
the last thing I'll say that isn't necessarily, it's just a sort of imagery that really stuck with me. I think it was like right at the beginning of the chapter, sort of piece where Coltane comes to talk to Duker, but they're at the campfire in the night, and it describes as like the risen, I think those like winged lizards are going and eating the cape moths out of the sky.
Yeah.
And there's the constant crunching of exoskeletons.
Yeah.
So in this night before the battle,
can't even sleep because it's so loud.
You're just listening to basically the crushing of bones the whole night. Like I can just imagine that being so maddening, but
oh my gosh,
beautiful.
Amazing. And you're going into a place where you're going to hear actual human bones be crushed.
Yeah, human sized.
The worst thing I could hear the night before, when I'm just like, I just need some rest. It's like death. Yeah. And we also find out that Coltane, conscripted all of the servants. That's why the nobles are ticked off, is because, the servants, he's like, you need to actually defend us. And then he gives them back to the nobles, and Duker's like, that's a bad idea. So Coltane says, well, okay, well, let's buy them all. We'll buy them all. So interesting. Okay, so let's get to the actual battle, because it's another barn burner of a sequence. I feel like we just got through one of these impossible situations, and Erikson ups the ante here and makes it even more impossible because we've got this river that needs to be crossed inside a ravine, basically, with impossibly high, it's got jagged rocks on either side. And then Chemist Rouleau and he's got sappers too. His sappers dug out the other side and made this impossibly high cliff face that just bottlenecks and funnels anybody crossing the river into one path where he's literally got his entire forces ready to be like, murder hole. Here's the murder hole you have to go through.
Fish, please hop in this barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and so and they're screaming and chanting and making all this crazy noise as Coltain's army, the 7th Army, is just slowly, quietly marching toward the place that the other side wants them to go. It's like, what an amazing, and I mean, it's like Braveheart or Henry V or whatever you want to say, but it feels so epic of them just slowly, methodically marching to what seems like their doom.
Doom, yeah.
But confident, quiet, focused, just awesome.
And the immediate first step where you're like, something's up with this. Like, obviously we know that Coltain has something up his sleeve, but like before they even start marching into battle, he's like, oh, by the way, refugees, stay here. We'll be back.
And they're not happy about that. The refugees are like,
angry.
but we want to go with all the people with weapons.
He's like, most of us do, but you'll be fine. And so it's so interesting that he took the wounded, like he took the weakest of them. Yeah. In the marching forward army. It's
and so we get a lot of really awesome choreography here with, being attacked on their flank, being forced into this, death ravine, crossing the river, having, arrows rain down on them as they're, hitting the imagery of hitting the shields, felt very, that movie 300 where they're, all the it felt so physical and awesome. And then, you get into it and we're with Duker and it's chaotic in there. He doesn't know what to do. And there's people screaming all around him. And the horses have to charge up this impossibly steep thing. And, you've got the people on the side sweeping around. You've got the horse soldiers, the cavalry running and kind of trying to protect their flank. And then, of course, the big coup de grace, the big, secret thing again is the sappers who literally, that guy's like, hey, you know what turtles do at night? And it's like,
just wiggling into the sand. Yeah.
Dude, like, you just imagine, dude, spent all night crawling through the dirt, hiding from the enemy army, waiting, being like, I gotta come up with a sick line. I'm gonna.
And that's what he came up with.
He's like,
yo,
you know what turtles do?
We've seen
He's
turtle?
Like,
bro.
His buddy's like,
turtle.
Nailed it, Harvey. Nailed it.
Man,
so
and so they're buried in the sand, but like with the intent that they know that the cavalry is going to ride on their backs to get to their destination.
Literally breaking bones from many of them. It's just so hardcore and awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
amazing.
So awesome. Yeah. And but even before that, they like shoot off all the rest of their artillery and obliterate all the elite soldiers. They have all these elite soldiers. They pop up, they shoot all the, granados and all their crazy flamers and stuff, blowing up the front. And they're like, this way, over the top of us. Come on.
I will say, when they're like, come back over the top of us, I didn't quite understand why they needed to go back over the top of them. Is it just that otherwise it would have been too treacherous for the cavalry and the people?
My understanding is there's just this narrow pathway and they pop up in that narrow pathway, obliterate all the dudes that were blocking that pathway. So now there's an open passage.
Yeah.
But they're there. And it's like, well, we have a very
There's
small
nowhere to
window of
go.
time where this isn't blocked anymore. So we're not going to move. We're just going to duck down and you'll trample us.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, crazy,
Yeah.
but so cool. Anyway, so that's, how they survive. And then we get a scene in the, after the battle where we're kind of checking out how the crazy losses. And we find out that even off screen, that was an amazing thing. But off screen, there was this whole other engagement that seems equally as compelling and dramatic and crazy, with the refugees that were left behind being protected by the Weasel Clan, and the Weasel Clan literally using them as bait to draw some of the forces away and
Slaughter
wiping
them
out an entire clan's worth of forces, like
Yeah.
obliterating. They literally, there's this clan, the Tithans, what are they called? They no longer exist anymore because they've been wiped out from this battle.
Yeah, the Tithansi archers was the crew, and this was some of my favorite stuff in the book. There's one theme that sort of emerged at the beginning when Duker was talking about the war and armies and people dying, and specifically saying about like how when people die, like you don't bother remembering their names. Not bothering, but like remembering their names is almost like an insult to the sacrifice that they made, because it implies like questions like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. Oh, why am I still here? And it adds like this not just sadness and sorrow, but almost a disrespect to like the sacrifice they've given. And so letting them remain nameless honors the fact that they gave up for this. And then as we spin to the end of this battle, the Weasel Clan, many of the refugees got killed. I think it said hundreds, but they said 4-1. They slaughtered vastly more of the enemy than the refugees died. And then people were like, this is like repugnant. I can't believe you even let us die. This many of us die. And they didn't comment on it. And people took their silence in this matter as insult to the memory of these people. But for them, it was the greatest honor to not talk about them and to suffer the sacrifice they made by paying it back fourfold over to the enemy. And the echo of Duker saying, don't remember their names, and the Weasel Clan remaining silent about the circumstances of the casualties at hand was just like a beautiful little alley-oop to me.
I agree 100%. That sequence stuck out to me. I have it here. You did an eloquent job of recapping it. I wanted to read just because I thought it's so beautifully expressed. He says, names are no comfort. They're a call to answer the unanswerable. Why did she die, not him? Why did the survivors remain anonymous, as if cursed, while the dead are revered? Why do we cling to what we lose while we ignore what we still hold? Name none of the fallen, for they stood in our place and stand there still in each moment of our lives. Let my death hold no glory, and let me die forgotten and unknown. Let it not be said that I was one among the dead to accuse the living. I have chills on my...
I do too.
It's just
my God.
so good.
Whew.
So good.
That's one of my favorite sentences that I pulled for this episode. It's just incredible.
Exquisite. I mean, it's exquisite. It's so powerful and beautifully expressed. And you're right. I love that they come, the people that they literally saved are accusing them of being monsters and yes, it's a kind of a monstrous thing to understand. We have to use you as bait, and many hundreds of you will die to save the thousands that it's like, and what you said about them believing their culture believes that we're not even going to disrespect their memory by saying anything.
Yeah.
We're just going to remain quiet.
And I mean, this is one of those moments in this book that, I don't know when this was written, but, living in America, coming from Canada, there's like monuments where I'm from, but in America, there are many, many monuments and many monuments to like unnamed soldiers, people who died in various battles, and they're always beautiful to me. But I'm like, I kind of like, this is like a place for people to come and think about their loved one, but it almost like takes that moment in the book and makes me think differently about every single one of those things I've seen, where it's like the deepest respect of being like, we won't name you, but this is your tribute, is this silent monument. I don't know, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Beautiful. And I keep saying it. I said it last week a lot. I said it to you before we even started recording today, that is what I find so transcendently amazing about these novels. And we're only on the second one of 10, but the way he manages to infuse so much introspection and philosophy and just musings about what it is to be human, what it is to be alive, and the futility of existence and all that stuff it's constant. It is, and it is always so beautifully expressed and consistent with what these characters are. It's not just a rousing adventure tale. It is that, but it is so much more. It forces you to reckon with all of these big ideas. And that's what I find it's like, it's working on a different level than most of, the adventure tales that I enjoy. And I appreciate it so much more for that. All right, change of pace now. We head over after the battle. We head over to check out Callum's group that is still stuck in the Warren at this point. And they run into this dome that is covered in ash inside the Warren. And I feel like there's lots of stuff here that I might not get all of as far as understanding that this is from Caladan Brood's second in command, who has for thousands of years commanded or had an empire that's larger than anything that exists now. I feel like that's all texture for stuff we'll probably learn about later. But that was interesting. And then it feels like Callum's like, man, we're never going to get out of here. Maybe if I just concentrate real hard.
Well, he's like, was this where they were looking at that? I think I might be getting things mixed up between Culp and Fellison and crew, where they're looking at something and they're like, you see this thing we're looking at? You see the throne? Is that this?
No, that is Culp and
okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I do recall is that he's like, oh, we're never going to get out of here, but we really gotta. So I'll just try. I'll just do it.
We're never going to get out. Oh, man, I've tried everything except concentrating super hard.
So funny.
That was very funny. And they do it. They get there. They get to Aren or Aaron. I don't know how we need to pronounce that.
Aren.
I like Aren. Aren and Stimpy. And then we have been talking about Aren this whole time. Everybody's trying to get there. It feels like the one last bastion of hope for a lot of folks. They get there. It's like, oh, this is Dead Town, where all the dead people hang out. It's like very depressing.
Oh my gosh. And I feel like we're like in Aren, and then immediately you're like, and then a couple wacky things happen. Bye. And it's like, what is happening? What? Who?
I love they go into this almost like a tavern in Dead Town where dead people hang out, and he does another fantasy concept or just sort of an idea that I've never seen before, but it's so cool. It's just like a small little texture thing, but it's like I've never seen anybody do that, and it's such a cool idea. I talk about you talk about me being a DM and creating. And I pick things up. I was like, how did I never think of that? It's so cool. But this thing where the center of the tavern is sunken, so everything is falling to the center, like all the refuse and dead rats and stuff. And they literally have to saw the legs off of all the tables and chairs to
match
so
the angle of the thing. Yeah.
What a image to have in your head of this. Just this. It speaks to the nature of everything that you're in. It's just all sinking and deteriorating and gross, and literally like a guy passes out and slides on the grease closer to the center. It's just amazing imagery. Amazing.
It's almost like I couldn't tell if that was like, oh, it's sinking from happenstance. So like, we just know it's gonna be so grimy. So just build it at the angle so we don't have to sweep. I'm never sweeping this floor. It will deal with itself.
It will deal with itself. Yeah, I like they're like, we could fix the floor, or we just saw these legs at an angle. Done and done.
So
yeah, so good.
Callum is here. I don't think the whole crew arrives here at like this place they could stay. They can get a bath. They're sort of off trying to figure out the bath situation, and Callum is down in the bar and runs into somebody.
Yeah.
And I loved the subtlety of these interactions. Was just beautiful, because you've seen Callum be like a badass and kind of like sort of lie his way through things a couple times and just sort of play it cool, and showing up and being like, hey, and they're like, hey, you seem like you just got here. He's like, yep, yeah, just got here. He's like, oh, by the North Gate? Yeah, by the North Gate. He's like, that's interesting. North Gate's closed, actually. He's like, I meant the boats. Definitely the boats. And he's like,
the dock is what I meant.
The dock is closed too. And he's like, I definitely didn't mean the dock. What do you mean the dock is closed too? And they're clearly having this moment where this guy's like, they're like vibe checking each other.
Yeah.
And Callum's like, what's your game at? What's happening here? And the guy's like, I'm just saying that you probably need to come with me on my boat, the only thing you can possibly do. And he's like, doesn't seem legit, but it does. Is this quick, Ben? Who knows what is happening here? But I gotta go on this boat, I guess. It's like,
yeah,
like it happens so quickly, and Callum's like, all right, well, bye, family I've been traveling with. I gotta go with this guy.
No, it's awesome because the guy's like, you know, if you were super lucky, you would have run into a guy who has a boat with a bunch of Marines on it and literally all of the High Fist's treasure.
Oh, yeah,
like,
all of the gold.
Like, you would be wouldn't that be the craziest thing if you met that
That'd
guy?
Be like totally random.
By the way, the guy with the thumbs is that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot that he had all the treasure. That's
He's like,
so funny.
wouldn't it be crazy if I had literally had all the treasure in the entire empire in my boat parked right there?
Sliding the boat key across the table or whatever.
Yeah, it's so good.
And then like this whole thing happened very fast, and there's like a moment of like that I think is supposed to be like, it's very powerful for the characters, clearly, that I was like, well, I didn't think anybody cared that much. Where Callum's like, okay, bye. And he's
you
sort
didn't
of gone.
think Manala, you didn't get a little vibe from Manala where she's
Not
like,
so much.
something?
Yeah, not so much that she would be like, he's the one. I gotta go. And they're like, go get your man, honey.
Go to him.
Yes.
She's running through the airport.
Exactly. Like, I didn't get that much. And at first, they're like, Manala's like, I think I gotta follow Callum. Like, she's like a military badass, so she's getting a sense of it. But then she's like crying, and then it took me a while. I was like, why is she crying? And I'm like, oh, she's like leaving her family, so she's sad about that. But like the first time I read it, that it literally was, she's like, I think I have to go, and I like read it in like this weird way where I was like, what? No.
I don't think it's completely that. I mean, I think there's a little of that. I think there's a little something going on with them. But I also feel like there's a part of her that's like, I gotta go because I kind of don't trust this guy.
Keeping an eye on him. I don't think it's that at all. But when on my first read, I was like, why is she crying? Is she like, it didn't seem like she cared that much. And then I realized she's sad to leave her family behind.
Right.
But it all happened so fast.
Yeah. I like how though he's like, you can sell my horse. Okay, bye. You can sell my horse. Anyway, bye. Yeah. Also, and then we get a scene where it's like out of nowhere, we're back with Lestara Yill, who I'm like, we keep checking in with Yill and this crazy Pearl character that I don't understand yet. And she gets arrested.
Instantly.
Interesting. Don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it another great like moment of conversation. It's almost like her and Callum had the same thing where they showed up and they're like, "Here's information," but instead of that person being like, "I think you meant different information," and like letting
Yeah.
her get away with it, she's like, "Yeah, I'm the red blade." They're like, "You say you're a red blade?" And she's like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, well, you're arrested." It's like how you would thought Callum's situation might go, being like, "Oh, you said you go for the wrong gate.
Yeah.
Now you're arrested," but he like
Yeah.
gets through his situation from
Right.
happenstance or some kind of setup. Somebody's teeing something up for him, and
That's a great point. Because you're right. It does play out very similarly. She's like, "Don't worry about it. I'm a red blade. It's cool." And he's like, "Oh, you are, huh? Sweet. Okay,
Jail.
Come right here." Yeah, yeah. Very interesting stuff. And that ends chapter 13. Oh, by the way, in that chapter, we do find out, the chain of dogs is the moniker that has been given to Coltane's disorganized, haphazard caravan through the desert, which makes sense. Lots of dog imagery. Of course, it starts, chapter starts with the dog, with the other dog in its mouth. There's the foolish dogs are one of the, cavalry,
Wiccan
horse
clans.
riders. So yeah, lots of dog imagery. Interesting, but yeah, chain of dogs, that he's shackled with these people that he has to, pull them through. I imagine like, one of those Los Angeles dog walkers that has like 14 dogs on it.
Yeah. But it's like the idea that he's like not only pushing those ahead of him, like the soldiers, the army to like continue, but also the same people that he's saving are biting his heels.
Yes.
So yeah,
good.
lovely.
So good. Then we get to chapter 14, which for my money is the chapter I enjoyed more of these two, because we get some awesome Culp, Fellison, Heberick action right away.
Totally tolerable. Totally tolerable.
Well, I was just going to ask you, she gets a little redeemed.
I don't think she gets redeemed.
Well, not redeemed. Yeah, that's too strong of a word. Yes.
She was not unbearable.
She's turning a corner. Turning a corner?
The last sentence we read implies that she's finally shattering her just obnoxious exterior.
I think she's turning a corner.
She better be.
So Culp's like, I was meant to pull up the name of the person. Forgive me, person, for not pulling up your name to credit you directly. But someone on our YouTube comments suggested that, I don't know if you saw this, that we're pronouncing divers wrong. That it should be diverse. Makes a lot of sense. Diverse, because soul taken is not SOUL. It's SOLE, meaning one. Soul taken. I'm taken by one. I can transform into one thing. But diverse means I can transform into a lot of different things. Makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense. And let me tell you, both don't roll off my tongue in the way I like. But one makes more logical sense versus like divers.
Yeah, no, and it makes me feel like we have
diverse.
Yeah. No, I understand why we thought it was divers, but also makes me feel like we have many videos that will be up forever where we're saying it wrong. But
that will happen. I'm going to say
it's going to continue to happen.
A million more times. Yeah.
100%. And I probably could do research and find this stuff, but I am so scared of spoilers.
Me too. I looked up, somebody posted something about the subreddit posting our stuff, which is very exciting.
Yes, thank you, by the way. Thank you for putting us in the official subreddit.
And thanks for listening and enjoying this. It just, I don't know how to like acknowledge people. Is it cringy for me to be like, oh, you're really watching us? That's so cool. But
only when you use that voice.
Oh, great.
No, just kidding.
But when I went to like go look at it after you said something when we chatted yesterday, immediately there's like thread after thread after thread that weren't spoilers, but like even just the titles of them, I was like, what am I reading? What am I reading? And I immediately closed it. I'm like, oh, I'll read this in a year and a half when we're done all 10.
Right. That's how I feel. I'm like, I'm so nervous. I know that the subreddit is they're very spoiler conscious, but even like you said, even just, I don't want to even get close to it. So yes, we're going to have lots of wrong in our read through, and hopefully you'll correct us as we go.
We'll issue corrections down the line.
Yes.
Dub over the old videos. Anyway, sorry.
Diverse. I kind of love diverse, though. I think diverse is pretty rad.
Yeah.
So he's sensing a lot of these soul taken and diverse, and Fellison's like, let's just die. Let's just die. Maybe a soul taken will, or maybe a diverse will bite us, and then maybe that's like, it's cool. I can live like a werewolf. It'll be sweet.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's not how it works, you moron. But Fellison's feeling better because she's drinking the water they found in the cave, and eating those fruits that they found, even though there's tons of bodies in there. And this is where they find this old temple, and again, feels like this is full of meaning that I don't yet grasp. Where we're like, he's like, there's a throne there for the antler god. And he's like, hey, who's on the throne, bro? And he's like, there's nobody on the throne. He's like, well, that's weird. There should have been somebody on the throne.
There used to be.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sure? That looked like it was pretty intentionally carved to be an empty throne. And he's like, who knows?
Yeah. The other thing that I think is cool is there's all this talk in the two novels that we've read so far, about the deck of dragons and basically like tarot cards that tell you your future and how they're imbued, and there's a lot of import with those, and that there's an elder version of this deck of cards is physical structures, these giant stone slabs. I think that is such a cool idea that, you're thinking of it like tarot cards, that there's some inherent magic in being able to, read your fortune, but that magic didn't always just exist in a deck of cards. It could be manifested in other structures. I think that's such an interesting idea. And I think we're just at the tip of that iceberg of finding out why that's important,
Especially when you think about like, things appear within this deck of cards. Like, this deck of cards is a shifting thing.
Yes.
So what does that mean for the physical manifestations of big tablets or structures? Are they just like,
great point? Yeah.
Like out of the ground or what?
Yeah. Very cool. And then, so they get through the tunnel and they arrive at this cliff, and they're like, well, now we're dead. Fellison's like, we're definitely dead now. We're dead, guys. We're dead. And Hebrick's like, no, we can climb down that. And Culp's like, what? How? He's like, magic hands. So, by the way, through this whole sequence, I love how Hebrick has just gone Looney Tunes, and everything he says is so interesting and so, lyrically written, and it folds back in on itself. And he's just kind of like, that's because all the people are going to die. All this really fun. He has changed and become enigmatic. And
I feel like he's like, the types of things that he's saying that feel like, what does that mean? I'm like, I want to write those down so that later down the line, when they inevitably are something that he said, I could be like, Hebrick, remember?
Yeah. He told us everything before we knew we were hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, the image of like what he what he is like almost hard to picture. He has these invisible hands. Like Fellison describes him as like thin tree trunks, like that, like his tattoos are, and like the wiriness of his muscles. He's like this tiny little guy with these magic hands. And then Culp and Fellison like strap themselves. They have harnesses, I guess, or they find harnesses. I don't know where
they have those leather straps, but they're like worried they're going to tear because they're so in bad shape. Yeah.
And so they strap themselves to him, being like, okay, like, what other choice do we have? And the idea that, like, at least what I'm picturing is that those hands are physically in the stone. He's basically inserting these magical hands into this rock as they climb down, and his feet are constantly scrabbling at the bottom. So he's not like putting pressure on a foot and then using that to like stretch and reach the other leg. Everything is coming from these magical hands that his stumps are basically inserting into this rock and carrying them all down to the bottom of this cliff. Very extreme and odd and interesting.
Agreed. Yes. And then we get to my favorite section of these two chapters. We get a new entrant into this play. Again, another just incredible image.
Mhm.
Big old dude on a palanquin being carried by 4 undead, miserable undead people who are like, my death was so bad, so bad.
The energy that some of these like characters like Iskrel Pust
Yeah,
and I mean Heberick to some degree
yeah,
and that are like these little sort of quippy characters that kind of float in
yeah.
that have this kind of energy to them. Maybe I'm just putting like this similar energy to all of them, but it's very funny to have this character be like, "Hello, oh my gosh, welcome." Shut up, shut up. Ignore them. Anybody sounds them really so annoying. Anyway, let me help you. Like this
Yeah.
crazy, like almost like Gollum Schmeagol between being like a normal person and being like, "You are the worst zombies ever. I don't care about your death," and then being like, "My death was bad," and the other one's like, "Mine was worse, terrible, terrible." It's like such a funny, weird, quirky, like odd couple, me and my zombies, kind of.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a character you would animate in a video game.
Yes.
Just like walking up with these 4, like riding on this thing, walking the 4 zombies, like animating, walking up, and
In your
it just feels,
bubble of windless protection.
yes, it just feels like a Heroes of the Storm character,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And we agree that all of these zombies were killed by his rat form, right? They all have bite marks all over. He totally
Yes.
feasted on them and then forced them to carry him around.
Definitely.
Yes. So, I spoiled the turn,
Surprise.
but it's so interesting. Culp and Heberick are both like, I checked my Warren. I don't sense anything bad about this guy. He keeps telling us how great he is, giving us wine and food, this amazing thing we want. Fellas is like, this is great. I could do this. Maybe this is my new life. Maybe this is it. Maybe I live here now.
Oh, yeah, you sure look like somebody I could attach to, like a parasite.
Yeah.
He like heals her wounds with like this salve that like insta heals all of her skin that was peeling away from the whirlwind sandstorm.
Yep. Yeah. And everything seems just so nice. And this is what happens in these books is out of nowhere. And that's what it always feels like the most impactful climactic stuff just happens. There's no build to it. Other than that we've been building the whole time, but there's no ramping up. It's just a flash of action. He's, we're in this bubble. Soul Taken start attacking, scratching these huge claws, scratching at it heals itself over and over. He's like, don't worry, it's fine. They do this all the time. Oh, I'm rats. It's like
I couldn't understand. Like, I was trying to be like, what are the motivations for being nice? Is it like in better conditions? Culp like gets right up to him and he's like, "As a Soul Taken out there," and the guy's like, "Mm-hmm." And he's like, "That's pretty strong magic to like hold it off." And then he's like, "I found out," and then it becomes like an unimaginable number of rats.
Yeah.
Like it just talks about like pouring more and more and more. But I was like, why did he heal them? Does he like want them to be in the best possible conditions so then he can zombify them? Like I couldn't understand what the turn was. Is it just that he was found out? Was he always planning on killing them? What is
Well, I
why?
think he wanted Fellison, in a creepy dude way.
Yeah.
And he specifically wants to heal her and make her nice and tells her that, we're going to be great. No worries. Even my dead wife would have wanted this, super creepy. So I don't know if he wanted everyone to be fine, if he was always going to murder everybody and just have Fellison as his concubine or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's where my head was, where he was because even when he envelops Culp in rats, he's in Fellison's mind like, it's fine. I don't understand why you're freaking out. I'm merely enveloping your friend in rats. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's what I got from it. But again, it's like everything. It completely comes out of nowhere. it just explodes in the most dramatic thing. And it's like, oh my, out of nowhere, it's like Culp is like, hey, I don't sense any danger. I'm dead.
Yes.
Whoa, this character I care about, dead. I don't know. Don't know if he's really dead.
But they describe him as like a pile of wet bones. Like this isn't like, oh, Talk the Younger got punted into a mysterious warren. This is, I'm a pile of wet bones. And they describe it as like the rats are not just like on him, chewing him. The weight of how many rats there are bone shattering. He collapses because his bones are breaking from the weight of the rats upon him. Woohoo!
It is. I don't even know if I need to go off on this rant right now, but I don't know how Erikson gets away with this stuff all the time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have seen these characters go through hell. We have seen them skirt death numerous times. We have been in their trials and tribulations. Numerous times, it's like if they had died, it would have felt like, yeah, they earned it. I know, it's sad. And then we literally, the way he goes out, and the way Bowden goes out, we'll get to that in a second, is a random new character that we know nothing about just shows up and murders them. There's no build to it. It just happened. And the way I say, how does he get away with it? I love it. Like, I shouldn't love it. It should feel cheap. It should feel unsatisfying because there was all these other ways that felt earned to die. And yet this is the way they go. But I have to say, I loved it. I thought it's so powerful. It's so unexpected. It subverts expectations, all that stuff that we've talked about numerous times. He just keeps doing it. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I like it a lot, and I like it. There's been like a couple times when like I think I mentioned it when like there's like news that is dropped that I'm like reading, and I don't quite grasp the implications, and until I see the characters like reacting in such a way that they're like, "Oh my god, that's insane! That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. I can't believe that's true." And I'm like, "Wait, what did they say? Sounded important." And I sort of go back and reread it, but action. I feel like it speaks again so much to like what the real experience would be like. You know, death is not something that you get to have this poetic,
right?
Alas, it's the chaos of the world. The dangers are imminent and constant, and especially in the whirlwind that's happening now, the danger is everywhere all the time, and it can get you, and you don't get your poetic ending.
Right.
And so yeah, I love it as well.
And we've worked so hard to survive all of these challenges and impossible odds. We've worked, scraped and bled and hurt and endured, and we've gotten to this point, and some goofball on a palanquin ends it all.
Yeah.
But we do have one last, pour one out for Bowden.
I was like ready for that to be he's my guy for the rest of the books.
I know, me too. I was like ride or die with Bowden. He's going to be our guy. He's going to book 10. We're finally going to get Bowden. No, he's been following them the whole time. Obviously,
naturally, because he's a champion.
He's amazing. He had that vow to protect her. And he goes wading into the sea of rats with 2 lanterns. What an awesome image that is. Just smashing lanterns. And he's like, I remember being in the fire warren. My skin got gilded. Fire, no problem. Oh, I'm wrong. Oh, so wrong.
Oh, that was the magic fire. This is real fire. Yeah, it was. That was all of the rat stuff was very visual to me because I so recently played a Plague Tale, I think.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, I know what's up. Amicia, where you at, girl? And him coming out and like his face has been chewed away. Like the one thing I sort of have like hope for is that, he pushes Fellison out of the bubble where the rats are. They're in the sand, which has stopped.
She pushes
swirling.
Heberick too.
Yes,
Don't overlook that. She does something
she grabs
noble.
his collar. Okay, redeemed, quote unquote, redeemed.
Turn in the corner.
Turn in the corner. I do think she's turning the corner. They're out, and I think this is like right around the time the whirlwind actually stops. Like the sand is no longer like pelting your skin, but none of it has fallen. The entire desert is hanging in the air. And so it is static. You can't see, but you still it's not as it was. It's like a fog of sand. And Bowden comes stumbling out after being chewed, and Felicity takes his head in her lap, and he's like, I thought that I was invulnerable. His face has been chewed away. And Felicity talks about the armor that she has. And again, this is an echo from earlier in the chapter 13. They talk about if they don't have their armor, everybody would shatter from like the future promised immeasurable loss. And so in this moment, it talks about Felicity's armor actually breaking, and you don't know that somebody's armor is going to break until it's already cracked and broken. And so Bowden gives his last, well, we don't know what's up. I mean, I got like, I'll save for like, oh, what's your predictions? But the implication is Bowden is passing in her lap, and Felicity is finally turning this corner of her horribleness and into a space of where she can actually feel compassion for these people who have given everything of themselves to save her.
I thought that was an incredible scene. I mean, I do not want Bowden to die, but him stumbling out, falling, and what his last words are, "You're not what I expected." What does that mean exactly?
Such a jerk.
You're such a bee.
Yeah.
His last words are like,
his last words were, see you next Tuesday.
Amazing. Yeah. I think he's dead. And I don't want that to be true, but I think he's dead.
What if he is a pile of rats, though? Because we don't know what's up, but we do know that they specifically brought up it's not just getting bit a bunch, but he was gilded before.
Interesting.
I feel like there's a world where maybe he.
Well, we know that diverse are born, not made. Yeah, maybe he's diversified.
But how are they born? Are they gonna like? Now he's rats Bowden.
I don't know.
We don't know what
I feel like
birth
Bowden's
looks like.
I feel like Bowden's story has ended. I think that
it has.
I think his passing is the moment that turns Felicity. But like her and Heberick, the two of them, I can't imagine what we're in for with the two of them by themselves. Like it's not going to be good.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And then could we actually at some point describe that people could actually see Heberick's hands?
Yeah.
Or is that just Heberick's?
Yeah, and he's got the two different colors. I mean, it's very video gamey. It's very cool. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention in the previous one, we had Bowden come out with his face all chewed off. I forgot to mention one of my favorite things of the previous chapter was Lull, I think, who got hit with a mace in the face, and he's like, I'm so lucky they didn't knock out any of my teeth.
Yeah.
just like his whole face is crushed.
His whole eye has been ripped away.
Look, I got all my teeth.
Get out.
It's so darkly hilarious. Anyway, I'm thinking, wow, Culp's dead, Bowden's dead. What a way to end a chapter.
Oof.
Chapter's not done. We check in with Mappo and Ikariam and Fiddler and Crocus, and they're like, yep, Apsalar has met up with her dad. Mm-hmm. So we didn't get there in time.
Rut-row.
And Crocus is like, but what? And Fiddler has this really wonderful thing where it's like, hey, she met her dad though. Like, that's good, right?
Yeah, glass
the
half
whole
full,
world might
y'all.
end, but like,
that's what you wanted, Crocus, old boy.
Yeah. And there's this theory floated. Mappo's or Fiddler's like, well, maybe she is trying to do the same thing we're trying to do, and just trying to do it by being Shaik. And Mappo's like, yeah, but
maybe.
Yeah,
maybe, honey. Yeah, you keep that
when she becomes Shaik, she probably won't remember any of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but we find out like This is like the scene in Ghostbusters. He's like, tell him about the Twinkie. What about the Twinkie? Like what would happen? Don't cross the streams. What does exactly it mean when when we have Shadow Throne controlling the Empire as a ascendant? It's like, well, not good.
Yeah.
All the other ascendants will come, and it will be.
Imagine if like a bunch of society got deleted.
Yeah.
Like that.
Total particle reversal. Yeah. So that's interesting. And then I'm like, wow. Crazy way to end a chapter. But we're not done. Not done. We meet up with characters I completely forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
Leo Man and Toblakai, the Toblakai, who's nameless but is a Toblakai, who are still like,
she gonna get up?
do we stay here or?
They're like still just watching Shaik's body, which is interesting that they're like, oh yeah, her hair kept growing. And I'm like, how fast her hair growing that you could just be like, oh yeah, that was the normal rate, but it kept going.
I love that image though. I could just see it that the wind has gotten some hair out of the wrap of the shawl wrap, and it's just flipping, and you see this wrapped corpse with hair flipping all around it. I just thought that was such a powerful image in my head. And they're deciding what to do next.
And the book is untouched.
And Tobakai's like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go because we've been here so long. Her hair is growing and nothing has happened. And I think she failed. I'm gonna be honest. I think she failed. I think this whole whirlwind thing is literally just mad that she failed, which is what a cool idea. It's like, we see her get murdered. The whirlwind happens anyway. We've had many chapters of people dealing with the craziness of the whirlwind. And he's like, it's just a tantrum. It's just a tantrum. As a father of a 5-year-old, I can relate. But then we get two figures stumbling out of the darkness.
Stumbling through the sand, just hanging in the air.
Old man, young girl. Now, there's two possibilities of who this could be, Lana. Is it Apsalar and her dad and Stranger? Or is it Fellison and Heberick?
Oh my God.
Because she said, don't help me with him, but don't touch his hands.
Yeah, but Stranger had a freaky arm too. But you're
Right?
so right. You're so right. I did not, because he didn't say, oh, don't touch his arm.
Right. Don't touch his hands.
Let me tell you, that checks out. Fellison, angry lady, suddenly being like, oh, you need a Shaik? Yeah, I'll kill people. You think I won't? I got nothing to live for.
I think this is kind of an amazing twist. I have no idea. I'm merely speculating, and I feel like we're going to find out very fast.
Like instantly. Let me tell
Yes. So all of this could be moot literally in moments. I mean, people could be like, no, just read the next chapter, guys. But
literally the next sentence.
It could be the next sentence. But I do love that I forced myself to stop reading, and my mind was reeling, because I think the immediate assumption is, yes, it's Apsalar and her dad, and they've arrived at the thing, so she's going to become the new Shaik.
But I wouldn't expect. I did think it was interesting that they were like stumbling up, like one helping the other. Like Apsalar's going to see her dad, who has been this servant or whatever his name is, like who seemed to be mostly fine. You're kind of like, oh, I guess what happened to her dad? But in the case where it's like they're just stumbling up, and it's like Fellison and Heberick, it's like, yeah, they've been beaten to hell and back again.
That could be really cool. It could be a real cool twist that they get to the corpse before Apsalar does. I don't know. I'm very curious. We
love a cliffhanger.
We love cliffhanger. We do. So awesome. I thought chapter 14 was awesome. And that concludes Chain of Dogs. So now we're into Deadhouse Gates. Book Deadhouse Gates in book
Novel.
Deadhouse Gates. Yeah. It's going to get even more confusing from here. Which is 10 chapters plus an epilogue. So I think our plan is 334. Because last time Mr. Erikson said we should, the last book, Gardens of the Moon, he said we should do a bigger chunk to end it.
The last novel.
The last novel, yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Gardens of the Moon. So I think we're going to try to take that advice again, but I can be corrected if we can switch it up if people know
Have
more than we
chapter
do.
Preferences.
Yeah. So I think we're going to do 3 chapters for next episode, then 3 chapters for the following episode, and then finish out the novel. So in 3 weeks, we'll be done with the second novel and on to the third, Memories of Ice. Which I'm very excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got some business. Let's do our favorite sentences from this section.
All right.
Are you locked and loaded with yours?
We talked a bit about it before the show. I have a couple. One of them you read out earlier was my fave. This with the name None of the Fallen chunk. But I sort of picked 3 sentences that I really liked. Because they all kind of had similar. Okay. I know. They all kind of had like a similar thread between them, and like again, like this talk about it's all in like the pre-battle places. So I really liked this is Duker sort of walking through Coltane's camp, and in sort of like the wounded area, and I just thought this sentence was beautiful. Even wheeled hospitals carried with them that pervasive atmosphere of fear, the sounds of defiance and the silence of surrender. Mortality's many comforting layers had been stripped away, revealing racked bones, a sudden comprehension of death that throbbed like an exposed nerve.
It's good. So good.
And then the last one that I actually referenced talking about, I think this sets up like Fellison at the end of that book. We go to partake of death, and it is in these moments before the blades are unsheathed, before blood wets the ground and screams fill the air, that the futility descends upon us all. Without our armor, we would all weep, I think. How else to answer the impending promise of incalculable loss?
That was my sentence. That was my sentence. No! Okay, but I have a backup. It's good. No, it's an amazing one. I have a backup. But yes, amazing. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, you want to talk about that sentence? Sorry.
Yeah.
I need to rob you of it.
No. You didn't rob me of it. It's before blood wets the ground and screams fill the air, that futility descends upon us all. Like this notion of understanding that in these moments, we're going to do this thing that we have to gild ourselves for. We have to protect ourselves from, but we all know it's futile. Like that thing, the thing that descends upon us is this understanding that why are we even doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Powerful. Anyway, do you have any else you want to add to that?
The part that really struck me, I guess that chunk was technically, it's like a little paragraph, so it's technically 2 sentences.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about without our armor, we would all weep. Like in the context of this, you can pull that of being like, oh, physical armor, they're going into battle. They're literally like gearing up to do this.
Yeah.
But again, not to say this like a million times, and I'll probably say it a million more, but like so resonant with like the worldly experience of everyone in the world to different degrees, like having that sort of emotional armor.
Mm-hmm.
And like you've met people that have like, or I've met people, you've met them. I've met people who are very shielded and very guarded because they have been hurt, and they're constantly bracing themselves against the knowledge that they could and likely will at some point experience something that they feel is an incalculable loss. That's just the impending promise. Like, that's going to happen. And so you harden yourself against the world to brace against it before it ever exists.
And what Erikson seems to be saying is that what is human, what the only way to get to the real humanity is what's beyond that armor. What's
Yeah.
past that armor. When that armor breaks, that's when we finally get to a real place of connection and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a profound thought. I mean, it rings true, right? It's beautiful.
And truly that sentence tying in with like Felison's armor cracking and breaking when she's cradling Bowden in her lap. That is the thing that's given me the most hope for that character and being excited to see where she goes and not just like eye rolling at her being a jerk to everybody around her for another 10 chapters. I hope that we see what's human in her and what she has to offer, because it seems like she has so much potential for amazingness, and who knows, maybe it'll be amazingly evil.
And I think my instinct, my intuition is that Bowden and Culp's death will be that turning point, but who knows? We'll have to see. All right, so here's my backup. I guess it's more than one sentence, but this is, I think, a tangential idea to what we've just been talking about that, armor. This is Duker and talking to List about, he says, doesn't this like bum you out? Like what we're doing? He's like, actually, it encourages you. He's like, this place encourages you, historian. He says, strengthens, corporal, though in a cold way, I admit. Never mind the games of ascendance. This is what we are. The endless struggle laid bare. Gone is the idyllic, the deceit of self-import, as well as the false humility of insignificance. Even as we battle wholly personal battles, we are unified. This is the place of level earth, corporal. That is its lesson. And I wonder if it is an accident that the deluded mob in gold threads must walk in the wake of these wagons. Meaning, like, it's not an accident that all these noble a-holes have to walk behind the injured and the poor and the supposedly insignificant.
Yeah.
This is the level playing field. I'm actually encouraged by what I see around me because it levels the playing field. We're stripped bare of all of our pretense, even our feeling of self-importance, but also stripped bare of our feelings of insignificance. Like, that is powerful. That not only are we, we're knocked down a peg, but we're not insignificant. Like, neither things are true.
Yeah.
It's genius. I don't know how else to say it. I am so taken by the experience of reading these novels.
Did you say your soul taken by?
It's a diverse sentence. All right. Wait, I don't know how we're going to do 3 chapters, 4 chapters when 2 chapters were like an hour and 20 in. But
I know.
It's fun. I will take it.
We'll fill the size of the container.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We are up to our recommendations of other books. Lana Bashinsky, what do you recommend?
I recommend a book that feels very, 90 degrees away from what we're talking about now. It's called Yes, Please, and it's Amy Poehler's autobiography.
I read that too. It's great.
Oh, it is so great. Not only is it like charming and funny, obviously, because she's a very funny person, but it's very inspiring and thoughtful and candid about the things that she's gone through in her life and relationships and career. And I found it very inspiring, and I just loved it. It's called Yes, Please by Amy Poehler.
Totally concur. I also read that. It is so fun. So fun. Actually, I'll change mine because I will add a complimentary book to that list. If you read Amy Poehler's, you should also read Tina Fey's, which is called Bossy Pants. It's fantastic too. It's delightful. Both of them make for wonderful audiobooks because I believe each of them read their own books. So great audiobooks, but also great reads. Easy breezy fun. Like, go on a car trip, throw it on. You and whoever you're in the car with will laugh and enjoy Bossy Pants, as well as
Yes,
please. Was it
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, that was fun. I always enjoy these. Lana, thank you again for doing them. Thank you all for being with us and watching. Again, you can head over to our Discord, which is 5x5 DLC on Discord. There is a book club thread, and there's the Deadhouse Gates thread in that. Please participate. Tell us where you are, what you think, what your theories are, or what we've gotten wrong. Any of it. We love interaction with you, and we appreciate it.
Upload audio clips of you pronouncing all the names that you think
that would be
can't
great.
Say.
That would be a very useful resource for us.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good week.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the Book Club by